morning and welcome. What a wonderful day we have. I'm so pleased. I'm the curator, Margaret Whitehead, and today I'm going to give you a virtual tour of the first floor of the mansion. So this house was built in 1908. It was built to replace the first house which burned in 1906. So Augustus, our founder, would not have known this house, but he would surely recognize it from the furniture and many of the architectural features which were saved from the old house as it burned and used in this house. So this Blithewold is a truly authentic, historic house. All the furniture and furnishings and many of the wallpapers are original to the house. So we're going to start here with the magnificent view. When you come in the front door, this is what you see. Your eye goes straight out to the bay, through the loggia, past the terrace, the great lawn, and to the west bay. And we can go and take a look at the loggia here. And this has Moravian tiles, which were part of the arts and crafts movement. They were made in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, a company that's still in business actually. And the light fixtures are Chinese glass, painted, reverse painted, so it's painted from the inside, very clever. You will notice that Bessie's furniture is a very eclectic collection. She collected antiques and reproductions and new things. So I'll try and point those out as we go along. This table, we know is very old. It came from, we have photographs of it, in the old house in Hazleton, Pennsylvania, before they ever came to Bristol. So it's always been in the hall, a beautiful piece in oak, but it is a reproduction in a Renaissance style. And the flowers are collected from our gardens by the horticultural staff and spread throughout the house exactly as Marjorie did. She used to put flowers from the gardens in the house every day. So we follow her example. And this is a bed box, and yes, you heard me right. It was a sleeping compartment, very old. It's from Brittany in France, probably from the 1700s. These shelves would not have been in here. It would have been an open space, and the occupant would climb in with quilts and blankets and could then close the door for privacy, but still have the air go through these beautifully carved areas here, which are about to be restored actually. We need to put new fabric here. And then the Chinese temple gong. This is one of my favorite pieces, and it's recently been restored. It's from the early 1800s, Chinese. When they restored it, they really rediscovered all the beautiful carving on it because it had a couple of hundred years worth of dust and dirt and grime, and now it shows up beautifully. So this was used here as a dinner gong, and the children visiting the house used to take turns to strike the gong in the evening, and it was a great privilege to be chosen that day. And the sound would resound throughout the house, and there was great competition between the boys to see how loud they could make it chime, and only one strike. So we're going to go along now. This house is built on a north-south axis. So we're facing north here and south, and we're going to go along the hallway here to the living room. Notice as we go the pretty light fixtures. They're Italian, of gilded wood. And then you'll notice the Flemish tapestry. We have just had this restored. It's a very old piece. It's said to be 15th century and a panel from a set of 4 from the Borghese Palace in Rome. It hung here for many years gathering dust and finally got wrapped up and stored in the attic, but we found it recently and had it restored and put back here. It's a beautiful piece. And I forgot to show you the cassone, which is a walnut, a very old walnut cassone from the 16th century. Sotheby's said it had elements of very early Italian carvings. They were probably referring to this Medici crest. So here we are in the living room. This is considered a very casual room. That always shocks the children who come here. They think it looks very fancy. But in actual fact, compared with their house on Commonwealth Avenue, you can see that it was. So by comparison, this was a very comfortable family room. So they would gather here in the evenings. There's a wonderful area here for conversation, plenty of books for reading. They played a lot of cards. So there are 2 card tables, one in the corner here, and this one here in the window. They open up, they're both American, but around 1850. So they were also a very musical family. We have lots of piano music in the archives. Both Margaret and Augustine played the piano. This is a Chickering piano from around 1910. It was made in Boston. And the piano stool, we believe, was worked by Augustine. It's a lovely piece. And then one of the most interesting pieces in this room is the Biedermeier secretary. It's made of rosewood. It's in 2 pieces, though we've never tried to split them. That's the way they were, and the way they will stay. But it has recently been restored. It was very damaged, but it's now in beautiful condition. And in fact, I'm going to open it to show you the inside. So as I said, the outside is rosewood. And the inside is bird's eye maple. It has lots of drawers, and in fact it has secret compartments, including this one. It has other secret compartments, and in fact it has one compartment that our conservators were not able to find how to get into it. There's a very large open space up here, and we're wondering if it's actually under this piece here to get into it, but we're not going to go there. We have lovely rosettes of ivory here, and glass knobs on the drawers. So we have here a place to put a book. It's a lectern, and it has a velvet cover here so that you could put a book on it, maybe a book of photographs, or even the guest book. It might have been the guest book or an art book. So you notice that this room has 2 porches. We have the west porch, which was perfect for a large gathering of people. They could sit out there and watch the children playing on the great lawn, or watch what was going on the bay with the boat races. And also it's the perfect spot for watching the sunsets, which are an almost daily occurrence here, just magnificent sunsets. And because this house is built on a a north-south axis, most of the main rooms face out west so that they can take advantage of the view and also the sunsets. And then the north porch, I think we can go out here, because from here you can see the beautiful flowers in the north garden. So this, because it was north facing, this was the coolest porch in the house, and this is where Bessie and her sisters used to gather in the afternoon and drink tea and chat and catch up and gossip. And in fact, we have one of Bessie's great nieces has provided lots of stories for us for the history of Blithewold, because she used to hide and listen to what the adults had to say. She was absolutely fascinated with their stories, and she's repeated them to us. So we're facing the north garden and the mosque. So more lovely flowers from the gardens. And probably one of the oldest pieces in the house is the Dutch chest here. It's from the 1600s, a beautiful piece in very good condition. Margaret Jeffries, who was Bessie's granddaughter, tells us that it was always used for storing children's games and puzzles. And the Italian chair was also a very old piece. Actually, I could show you the this is a music box, 24 tunes. It has 4 cylinders. One is already set in here. It's in perfect working order, though of course we don't use it anymore. And there's a drawer underneath that has 3 more rolls. It could be easily changed over. Has an absolutely beautiful sound, and we do have a recording of it, which is available in the shop. This was recorded by a professional musician, and it has 24. There are 6 different songs on each roll. So we can go back now back down the hall, facing south. This is the telephone room, and we know that the butler used to sit in here. He could see through the window to the drive, that he could see people coming in and alert the family, either by telephone or from the intercom, which is just around the corner. There's the intercom. So Bessie referred to this as the Chinese room, though actually there's very little Chinese about it. The writing desk and the chair are Indian teak, but the wallpaper, which is original, was called Décor Chinois, and we think the fretwork over the windows was also Chinese. And into the billiard room. This was a centre of activity when guests and family couldn't be outside. This was where they liked to be. Notice the beautiful ceiling, the vaulted ceiling with the carving that matches the carving on the fireplace. The table itself is made of oak and rosewood with ivory insets. We have high chairs here so that people could watch the game and see onto the top of the table. So the big players here were Quincy Shaw, William McKee and George Lyon, though it was commonly acknowledged that Marjorie was the best player of them all. So the children were allowed to watch as long as they didn't get in the way. They had to be absolutely quiet, and they loved to do that. So 2 more very old pieces here are the Italian leather chairs. And here we have the pool sticks that belong to the family. So these are all original to the family, and you can see their names on McKee, Van Wickle, so that's a very old one. So they had their own. The brass pieces here were probably, they're Middle Eastern. And we think they were probably bought just to decorate the house. The family went to the Columbian exhibition in Chicago in 1893, and we know that they bought a lot of things for the house then. So this would be an Eastern brazier, not used as that here, simply for decoration. So originally the top would be taken off, hot coals put inside, and it would warm a small room. And then this, also Middle Eastern, would have been used by a vendor to carry iced water or fruit juice around the markets. He would use this strap to fasten it onto his back, and then he could tip over the spout into a cup and serve his customers. The Blithewold stone is very interesting. This came from the first house. It was in the fireplace of the living room in the first house. So when the first house burned down, the workmen from Herreshoff came down and hacked this out of the fireplace as if the house was falling down around them, but they desperately wanted to save it so that they could use it in the new house. So they managed to do it without we don't see any cracks. It's in perfect condition. They did a good job. And the photograph over the mantel was William McKee's boat, the Chanticleer. It was a 118-foot schooner. It was enjoyed by the family for many years. He preferred sailing to the steam yacht Margaret. And these pieces were golf trophies. We're going to retrace our steps now and imagine that the gong has been rung for dinner. The guests here always took time in the afternoon after their activities outside. They would go to their rooms and rest and change, and then wait for the sound of the gong and then come down for dinner. So into the dining room, and life here was very formal. The table has many leaves. It has very few right now, but with the leaves it extends to fill up almost the whole length of the room and could seat up to 24 people. So the ladies always wore long dresses, and the gentlemen wore their dinner jackets, and very fine meals were served here from the kitchen on fine china, baccarat crystal, and Tiffany silver. The children were not allowed to eat in here. I will show you the breakfast porch where they ate. So you notice that the table, it matches the chairs. You notice the spindle legs, and it matches the two side tables, and the buffet, and the two vitrines, which have wonderful pieces of china in them. So the buffet would have been used for holding silver serving pieces. Right now it has on a Russian samovar and a Victorian papier-mâché tray, and also part of Bessie's collection of Bohemian red glass, and we know that that was a gift from Estelle. So once we get ready to open, there'll be a lot more pieces on here for you to look at. Here's a picture of Marjorie seated at the table here in the dining room. And she always sat here at this place. So the oldest piece in this room is this William and Mary cabinet, though it looks to me as though they had the spindle-turned legs put on it to match the rest of the room. It is rosewood with ivory, and it's from the 1700s. So we can go to the butler's pantry and see where the food was prepared. It was not cooked in this room. The stove here was in the kitchen, which is in another part of the house, so it wasn't here originally. There was no cooking was done in this room. This was simply used to assemble the plates and make sure everything was ready. So I'll show you some of the china. There are parts of 32 different sets of china in here. One of the favourite ones was this. It was used very often for luncheon. There are many, many pieces. The Czechoslovakian porcelain lusterware. And the spoke china the design is Imari. And there are lots of pieces. You notice there are some in the dining room. They go all the way up here. And then the Tiffany Favril set, which was a wedding gift for Marjorie. And then we'll look at the birthday china. They loved this china. It's the white and gold and blue and gold Royal Doulton china. And Marjorie always referred to it as the birthday china. It was used for very special occasions. It really does look spectacular when it's set up with the lovely glassware with gold edgings. And you can see here the Limoges fish plates, and there are several pieces of that and a large platter. And I like to put that on the dining table during the summer. It shows very well. And across here we have their everyday china, which wouldn't we all love? So this is the Royal Copenhagen, the blue scale pattern, and there are many, many pieces. I should tell you that all these cupboards and drawers underneath are full of all the extra pieces of this set and the next set that we're going to see. So we've set up three place settings here, actually two of this one, to show how it might be used for different meals. And that's with silver from the collection. So this might be a breakfast setting, for instance. And then the china that attracts the most attention is the china from the Marjorie, that boat, the Marjorie. They bought this in 1900 for a trip they were going on a 3-month trip to the West Indies. So this is all Minton china. You notice that every single piece has the image of the crossed flags of the Marjorie and the New York Yacht Club and the name Marjorie underneath it. Even the glassware is etched with I don't know if you can see it clearly, but everything from bowls to decanters, serving dishes. So, and all of this is from all these 4 shelves are from the Marjorie, and then there are many, many, many more pieces underneath. So you can imagine it was an ocean-going vessel, so probably a lot of the pieces were lost. But we think it was probably originally a set for 35 or 40 people. And even though Bessie sold the boat Marjorie in 1901 after this trip, the family continued to use this china often in the dining room. So now we're going to go into the breakfast porch. And this is where the children all had to eat. It seems a pretty nice room to me, but they loved being in here, away from the adults, and they could get up to mischief. Pink poppy tiles, they're made in Sicily in 1900. We didn't know that until recently when we found some leftover tiles in the basement, and it was clearly marked underneath each one where it was made, and in fact who the designer was, and the town it was made. So that was a wonderful thing to have. And the table is a green stained parquet top table. It was probably made for this room. It is absolutely enormous and very heavy. It expands to be twice as large as it is now. The underneath part splits in the middle, so you get another here, and the chairs with brush seats. It really looks very pretty, and of course it matches the wood here. The white marble Italian fountain is activated from the billiard room, from the kitchen, and it still works. We have a wonderful story of one day the children had been ousted from this room because Bessie wanted to be in here. It was a particularly beautiful day. She wanted to serve her guests here in the breakfast porch so that they could see the gardens. And one of the boys was very annoyed and went into the butler's pantry and turned on the faucet very high, and the water came spouting out and soaked all the people sitting at this side of the table. So we get lots of wonderful stories like that from visitors, people who were children here. So you see we have two sideboards that match the table. And before we leave this room, be sure to notice the grey cluster light fixture. We've had that restored recently. And that's probably Venetian. That's original to the house. So I hope you've enjoyed your tour, and that you will come back next week to see the second floor. So there's so much to see and to know in this house. I can't possibly show it all to you. So hopefully, once we're able to open again, you can come back to reality and see the real Blithewold. So next week we will go up the staircase. We will see the newly restored marquetry furniture in the master bedroom, the rare stickly furniture in the guest room, and then Augustine's room, and Marjorie's room, Estelle Clement's, and the sewing room. So I hope you will come back then, and thank you for coming today.